Have you ever stared up at the stars and wondered what secrets lie buried beneath the dust of time? Somewhere, beyond the polished history taught in schools, lie echoes of lost worlds, entire civilizations that rose, flourished, and then vanished as though they had never existed at all. But traces remain. Scattered ruins, undeciphered scripts, myths wrapped in mystery. Tonight, we open the portal to those forgotten realms. As the night deepens, let your mind drift gently through the corridors of ancient time. This is not just history. This is the story of humanity's forgotten dreams, civilizations whose existence still confounds scholars and whose secrets whisper through stone and silence. In this journey, you won't need to strain to understand. Just close your eyes and let the voices of the past carry you. We begin now with the first of 10, a place so deeply embedded in our collective psyche, it has become the ultimate symbol of a lost world. Let's begin. Atlantis, the sunken empire. Atlantis, the very word conjures 1,000 images. Glittering temples, golden statues, spiral cities shining beneath the sun. And then, silence. A vast ocean where once a mighty empire stood. The myth of Atlantis begins with Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher. In two of his dialogues, the Timaeus and the Critias, he described a civilization of unmatched power and grandeur. According to Plato, Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. It was larger than Libya and Asia combined, a land of skilled engineers, wise leaders, and abundant resources. The Atlanteans were said to have developed advanced technology, complex urban planning, and an empire that stretched across much of the known world. But they grew arrogant. As Plato writes, they became filled with unjust power and greed, and Zeus, the god of gods, decided to punish them. In a single day and night of misfortune, Atlantis was said to have sunk into the sea, swallowed by the ocean, lost forever beneath the waves. Yet the mystery doesn't end with Plato. Throughout history, countless explorers, scholars, and spiritualists have sought Atlantis. Theories about its location are as varied as they are intriguing. Some place it in the Mediterranean, Crete, Santorini, or Cyprus. Others suggest it lies in the Caribbean, near the Bahamas, or even under the ice of Antarctica. Some even argue Atlantis wasn't a place at all, but a metaphor for human hubris and divine retribution. But then there are the tantalizing clues. In the 20th century, Edgar Cayce, the so-called sleeping prophet, claimed that Atlantis was a real continent that sank around 10,000 BC. He predicted that remnants would be found near Bimini in the Bahamas. In 1968, divers discovered strange stone formations there, known as the Bimini Road. Are they natural formations, or man-made pathways from a forgotten age? Many researchers believe that Plato may have been referring to the Minoan civilization on the island of Crete, which was devastated by a volcanic eruption around 1600 BCE. The eruption of Thera, modern-day Santorini, caused massive tidal waves and widespread destruction. The Minoans were known for their advanced architecture, maritime power, and complex art. Could their downfall have inspired the tale of Atlantis? Alternatively, there are those who believe Atlantis may have existed in the Atlantic Ocean itself, possibly near the Azores Islands. Submerged structures and sonar anomalies found in these waters have fueled further speculation. Though mainstream archaeology remains skeptical, the allure of the unknown keeps the theories alive. Spiritual movements in the 19th and 20th centuries also embraced the myth of Atlantis. Theosophists like Helena Blavatsky described Atlantis as a spiritually advanced civilization with esoteric knowledge far beyond our own. According to these writings, the fall of Atlantis was not just physical, but a moral and spiritual collapse. Popular culture has kept the legend alive, from books and films to documentaries and video games. Atlantis has become a symbol of a forgotten utopia, of what once was or might have been. The fascination lies not just in its grandeur, but in its sudden, dramatic end. Scientific searches for Atlantis continue today using satellite imagery, oceanographic surveys, and deep-sea dives. In 2009, researchers using Google Earth claimed to see what looked like a grid pattern on the ocean floor west of the Canary Islands. Though later dismissed as a data glitch, It reignited the imagination of millions. We may never find conclusive evidence, but the story of Atlantis survives not because of certainty, but because of mystery. Taps into something primal, a longing for a golden age, a warning of what arrogance can bring, a hope that perhaps, just perhaps, there's still something down there waiting. Imagine now, resting on a ship drifting over calm seas. The moonlight reflects over the water. Below, hidden beneath layers of time and tide, lie the ruins of Atlantis. Marble columns toppled in silence, mosaics of forgotten kings, statues half buried in silt, cities without sound. As you drift into sleep, let the waves carry you deeper, into memory, into myth. Atlantis is calling not to be found, but to be felt. Number 3. Lemuria, the continent that slipped beneath the sea. Have you ever imagined a world stretched across the vastness of the Indian and Pacific Oceans? A lush, green land filled with exotic life, ancient wisdom, and a people attuned to the rhythms of the earth and stars? A civilization lost so completely that only legends and whispers remain? Tonight, we journey into the heart of that mystery, into the myth and possibility of Lemuria. The story of Lemuria begins not with myth, but with science. In the mid-19th century, long before the theory of continental drift was widely accepted, scientists struggled to understand how the same species of animals and plants could be found on distant continents. British zoologist Philip Sclater noticed a peculiar distribution of lemurs, small, primate-like creatures, found in Madagascar and parts of India, but not in Africa or the Middle East. To explain this, he proposed the existence of a now-lost landmass connecting Madagascar and India. He called it Lemuria after the lemurs. This hypothetical continent was thought to have sunk beneath the Indian Ocean over time, taking with it not just the animals, but perhaps a whole branch of early human civilization. Though Sclater's theory was eventually replaced by plate tectonics, the name and the idea stuck, and it began to evolve. In the late 1800s, the concept of Lemuria was embraced by the burgeoning field of theosophy, a spiritual movement led by Helena Blavatsky and later expanded by thinkers like W. Scott Elliott and Annie Besant. To these mystics, Lemuria was not merely a geological formation. It was a cradle of early human existence, the home of the third root race. According to theosophical texts, Lemurians were not like modern humans. They were tall, etheric beings with a deep spiritual connection to the universe. Some sources claim they had no need for spoken language, communicating telepathically. Others say they laid the spiritual foundation for future civilizations, including Atlantis. These ancient Lemurians were said to live in harmony with nature, possessing a wisdom that transcended material concerns. Their downfall, like so many in the cycle of civilization, came with corruption, misuse of knowledge, and natural cataclysm. Some traditions say Lemuria was destroyed by volcanic eruptions and seismic activity, sinking slowly beneath rising oceans. The belief spread and evolved through various cultures. In southern India and Tamil Nadu, there are legends of a lost land called Kumari Kandam, a vast continent said to have once connected the Indian subcontinent with Australia. Tamil scholars and traditionalists believe that Kumari Kandam was the birthplace of the Tamil people, home to an ancient and advanced civilization with its own literature, technology, and maritime prowess. The Sangam literature, some of the oldest known Tamil writings, mentions submerged lands and ancient kingdoms lost to the sea. Some link these references to Lemuria, suggesting that the myth may hold deeper cultural memories of rising sea levels and lost coastal settlements. Across the Pacific, similar myths emerge. The Maori of New Zealand tell of Hawaii, a mystical homeland across the sea. Polynesian navigation legends speak of sunken islands, and in Hawaii, the Menehune, a mysterious, diminutive people, are said to have lived in secret valleys before disappearing without a trace. In Easter Island, the Moai statues stare silently across the ocean, remnants of a culture that knew more than we can explain. Could these far-flung stories, scattered across oceans and generations, be fragments of a once unified memory of a lost world? Modern New Age movements have taken the Lemurian myth further, Channelers and spiritual authors describe encounters with Lemurian consciousness, crystal technology, and sacred knowledge stored within the Earth's energy grid. Mount Shasta in California is often cited as a key Lemurian site, a place where, some believe, the ancient ones now live in hidden chambers beneath the mountain, guiding humanity's spiritual evolution. There are even those who claim to receive messages from Lemurian beings, offering guidance, healing, and insights into humanity's future. These messages often emphasize love, unity, and a reconnection with the Earth. But is there any real-world evidence? The scientific consensus remains clear: Lemuria, as a continent, does not exist. The theory of plate tectonics provides a better explanation for species distribution. But geologists have identified fragments of ancient landmasses, microcontinents like Zealandia near New Zealand, and submerged plateaus, such as the Kerguelen Plateau in the Indian Ocean. These findings remind us that the Earth is constantly shifting, that lands do disappear, and seas do rise. In 2013, researchers from India and Australia discovered granite fragments deep beneath the Indian Ocean, suggesting that parts of a former landmass may have sunk millions of years ago between India and Mauritius. Though this isn't evidence of Lemuria in the theosophical sense, it adds a poetic twist, that beneath the waves, pieces of forgotten worlds truly do remain. The allure of Lemuria isn't about scientific certainty. It's about the longing for a time when humanity lived in balance with nature. A time when wisdom was measured not in wealth or power, but in harmony, intuition, and love. Close your eyes now. Imagine walking through an ancient Lemurian forest, trees towering overhead, their roots glowing faintly with a soft, golden light. The air is warm and rich with the scent of flowering vines. In the distance, you hear the soft sound of running water and wind chimes crafted from shells and crystal. Peace flows through every breath. You come to a clearing. A circle of stones surrounds a crystalline pool. You sit at the water's edge, dipping your fingers in. The pool reflects a sky filled with stars, constellations you've never seen, yet somehow remember. You're not alone. Figures begin to appear, not ghosts, but presences, tall, gentle beings who radiate calm. They do not speak, yet you feel welcome, safe. They guide you, not with words, but with waves of understanding that echo in your heart. They show you visions of harmony, of balance, of Earth not as a resource, but as a living being. And then slowly, like the setting of the Lemurian sun, the vision fades. But something remains. A memory, a message. The Earth remembers, and perhaps so do you. Let the ocean of your thoughts grow still. Let the stories of the deep cradle you in silence. Let the dream of Lemuria guide you through the night. Number 4. Göbekli Tepe, the mysterious temple of the ancients. Close your eyes. Imagine a time not a few centuries or even a few millennia ago, but 12,000 years in the past. The Ice Age is slowly retreating. Gigantic animals still roam the edges of forests. Human beings are few, scattered, and still thought to be simple hunter-gatherers wandering the land. And yet, hidden beneath a hill in what is now southeastern Turkey, something astonishing lay buried. Massive stone circles, pillars carved with animals, enormous megaliths arranged with precision. This is Göbekli Tepe, the oldest known temple in the world. Older than Stonehenge by over 6,000 years. Older than the pyramids of Egypt. Older than written history. Tonight, we descend into the silence of those ancient stones. Göbekli Tepe, which means Potbelly Hill in Turkish, was first surveyed in the 1960s. But it wasn't until 1994 that German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt realized the hill was hiding something far more significant. Beneath the dusty soil, protruding from the earth like ancient bones, were T-shaped pillars weighing up to 20 tons, intricately carved and deliberately placed. Using ground-penetrating radar and careful excavation, Schmidt and his team uncovered a complex of circular enclosures, each lined with towering megaliths. These were not homes. There were no signs of agriculture or permanent settlement around them. Instead, what they found appeared to be sacred space, a site of ritual, gathering, and mystery. But how could a supposedly primitive people, with no metal tools, no wheels, and no permanent architecture, build something so monumental? That question still echoes through the archaeological community. The stones themselves whisper stories. Carved into their surfaces are images of foxes, snakes, boars, vultures, lions, and abstract symbols whose meanings have been lost to time. Some believe the carvings represent constellations, a form of proto-astronomy. Others interpret them as totems, myths, or spiritual guardians. Still others suggest the site was an initiatory center, a place where early humans came to connect with the divine. But whatever its true function, one fact remains: Göbekli Tepe rewrites the story of civilization. It tells us that before cities, before farming, before writing, human beings had already developed the capacity for vision, for construction, for spirituality on a scale we had not imagined. It suggests that the urge to worship, to gather, to build sacred monuments came before, not after, agriculture. In other words, religion may have birthed civilization, not the other way around. The site also raises unsettling questions. Why was Göbekli Tepe buried intentionally around 8000 BCE? The backfill used to cover the site was not the result of natural erosion. It appears to have been deliberately piled in, entombing the stone circles as if to hide or preserve them. Was this a ritual act? A way to honor the place before moving on? Or was it an attempt to forget, to cover up something too powerful or dangerous to leave exposed? Some researchers have pointed to ancient cataclysms, like the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, which posits a comet or asteroid strike around 10,800 BCE, as possible triggers for both the construction and burial of Göbekli Tepe. Could the site have served as a sanctuary after disaster, a place of remembrance or survival? And still, deeper layers remain untouched. Excavation has only revealed a fraction of the site. Ground scans suggest that many more enclosures lie beneath the earth, waiting to be unearthed. What else sleeps beneath the soil? What truths remain hidden? Mystics and esoteric thinkers have also weighed in. Some believe Göbekli Tepe was a stargate, a place where ancient humans made contact with higher intelligences. Others say it was a power center on Earth's energy grid, much like the pyramids or Stonehenge. Still others connect it to Atlantis, Lemuria, or even extraterrestrial civilizations that seeded knowledge in the deep past. These ideas, while speculative, speak to something deeper, a yearning to understand how our ancestors, with no modern tools, could achieve such feats. A longing to know what they saw when they looked up at the stars, what they felt as they carved animals into stone, what they prayed for when they stood within those sacred circles. As you rest now, allow your thoughts to drift back across 12,000 years. You walk through a quiet valley. The stars above you shine with a brilliance untouched by pollution or light. In the distance, you see great stones rising from the earth, half buried in shadow. You approach slowly, feet pressing softly into the ancient soil. There are no words here, only silence. The stones loom around you, tall and still. You run your fingers over one, feeling the cold surface, the etched image of a lion or serpent. You are not afraid. You are not alone. In the center stands a great pillar. You sit before it and breathe. In that moment, time folds. You see the people who once came here, wrapped in skins, faces painted, eyes shining with wonder. You hear their soft chants, the rhythmic beat of hand drums, the crackle of firelight. You feel their reverence for the land, the sky, the mystery, and as you drift, the vision dissolves. But the stones remain, watching, waiting, whispering. Let Göbekli Tepe be your anchor tonight, a monument not just to what was, but to what still echoes within us. The search for meaning, the awe of the stars, the yearning for the sacred. Sleep now, traveler. There are more mysteries ahead. Number 5. The Indus Valley Civilization, city of forgotten engineers. As the stars shimmer softly above the sweeping plains of the Indus River, imagine a land where mystery and mastery walked hand in hand. A civilization so refined, so perfectly planned, that its quiet brilliance is only now beginning to be understood. Tonight, we journey into the twilight of forgotten cities, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, where the wind whispers through deserted streets and the echo of ancient waters still flows beneath the earth. This is the Indus Valley Civilization, a people lost to time, yet still humming in the silence they left behind. Let go, breathe, and drift into the city of forgotten engineers. It was the 1920s. British and Indian archaeologists working on railway construction in what is now Pakistan stumbled upon strange bricks, uniform, baked, ancient. Soon, excavations revealed not just ruins, but entire cities. Planned cities. Cities with order, elegance, and design that modern urban planners still admire. Mohenjo-daro, Mound of the Dead, was unearthed beside the Indus River. Harappa followed soon after, and what lay hidden under the soil astonished the world. Wide streets in perfect grid patterns, advanced drainage systems, multi-story homes with private wells and bathing areas, public granaries, evidence of trade with Mesopotamia. All this from a civilization over 4,000 years old. But who were these people? The silent engineers. Unlike Egypt with its towering pharaohs or Mesopotamia with its king lists and war chronicles, the Indus left behind no grand statues or obvious rulers. There are no monuments to power, no weapons in abundance, no royal tombs. Instead, the signs point to something quieter. A peaceful, cooperative society led not by force, but by design. Their bricks were standardized in ratio 1 to 2 to 4, used across all cities. That kind of uniformity across a vast region implies regulation, governance, or something more subtle, a cultural unity without kings, a civilization led by engineers, not emperors. And their sanitation? Stunning. Homes were connected to centralized drainage. Toilets flushed with water. Sewers ran beneath the roads. In some ways, these systems were more efficient than those in 19th century Europe. To walk through Mohenjo-daro is to wander a city ahead of its time. And yet, it was already ancient when the pyramids were being built. Seals and scripts, the language of shadows. Among the most mysterious remnants of the civilization are the Indus seals, small, carved stones with symbols and animal motifs. Unicorns, bulls, elephants, and intricate glyphs arranged in lines. But the language, still undeciphered. Despite decades of research, the Indus script has not revealed its secrets. Was it a language at all or proto-writing? Did it capture prayers, names, trade information? No one knows. This silence is deafening. Without readable records, we can only guess at their beliefs, their myths, their rulers. Some scholars believe the people of the Indus were the predecessors to early Vedic culture. Others suggest they were completely distinct, possibly linked to even older, unknown roots. The seals remain, staring back at us like messages from a forgotten dream. For life in the valley, archaeological finds reveal a rich, vibrant life. Toys made of clay, beads crafted with precision, intricate jewelry from gold and carnelian, miniature sculptures of animals, dancers, and even yoga-like poses. The people of the Indus valued beauty, movement, and harmony. They traded with distant lands. Mesopotamian texts mention Meluhha, believed to be the Indus region. They navigated rivers, farmed fertile land, and stored surplus grain in massive warehouses. And yet, no evidence of large-scale war. No armies. No battles carved into stone. A civilization built not on conquest, but cooperation. At night, imagine the soft glow of lamps in clay houses, the murmur of water through the city drains, the laughter of children playing with spinning tops. A peaceful world, slowly lost. 5. Collapse without a sound. Around 1900 BCE, something changed. The cities began to decline. Trade slowed. Bricks became lower in quality. Flood layers appeared in some sites. People moved east, toward the Ganges. But no invasion marks this fall. No ash layers from burning. Just a quiet fading. Theories abound. Climate change, shifting rivers, earthquakes, overuse of land. Some suggest droughts. Others point to the mysterious Sarasvati River, now dry, as central to their fall. It's as if the civilization exhaled and disappeared into silence. 6. Mystical echoes. Mystics and researchers alike see something deeper in the Indus Valley. Was this a civilization rooted in sacred geometry, cosmic alignment, or lost knowledge? Some believe it holds the remnants of a pre-Vedic spiritual system. Others think it could be connected to even older mythic realms like Lemuria. The layout of cities, the symbolism in seals, and the use of meditation-like postures suggest a people deeply in tune with harmony, physical, social, and spiritual. 7. A dream revisited. Let us close this part of our journey not with cold facts, but a dream. You are standing at the edge of the Indus River. The wind is warm, carrying the scent of ancient clay. The city before you rises in silence. Streets lined with bricks still hold the memory of footsteps. A drain trickles softly. Somewhere, a child's clay bowl rests, long forgotten. You walk slowly, past homes once filled with light. You touch the seals carved with creatures now extinct. You hear not war, not chaos, but stillness. The city breathes beneath layers of dust, whispering of balance, grace, and order, of a world that once was and might be again. Sleep now. Let the rhythm of that ancient river carry you into peaceful dreams. Number 6. The ancestral Puebloans, architects of the desert silence. In the Red Rock canyons of the American Southwest, where the earth glows orange beneath the setting sun, ancient hands once shaped stone into sanctuary. Cliffside cities that clung to canyon walls. Circular kivas carved deep into the desert. Roads that led nowhere or everywhere. These were the homes of the ancestral Puebloans, a civilization that thrived for centuries, only to vanish in quiet mystery. Tonight, we descend into the sacred silence of the desert. Let the soft wind hum through the stone dwellings as your body relaxes, and your thoughts drift into a dream of sun-baked temples and vanished voices. We begin at the heart of their legacy, Chaco Canyon. Chaco, city of the sun. Chaco Canyon, in modern-day New Mexico, was the beating heart of ancestral Puebloan culture between 850 and 1250 AD. At its peak, it was home to vast ceremonial centers, including the breathtaking Pueblo Bonito, a structure with over 600 rooms and multiple stories. The Chacoans aligned their architecture with the stars and sun. Solstice light pierced doorways and windows precisely carved for cosmic timing. Roads stretched out from the canyon in perfectly straight lines, carved into the desert for miles, sometimes over cliffs and hills. But why? Was this a center of trade? A sacred place of pilgrimage? Or something even more profound? A celestial map carved into the earth? 2. Architecture of mystery. Pueblo Bonito wasn't just a dwelling. It was a complex web of ritual, astronomy, and daily life. The massive walls, some over 3 feet thick, were built with mathematical precision. No metal tools, no wheels, just knowledge passed through generations. The circular kivas, ceremonial chambers, may have been used for storytelling, rituals, and connection to the spirit world. Some say they represent the womb of the earth. Others believe they echo cosmic cycles. What we know is this: the builders were astronomers, engineers, and dreamers, and they left us structures that still whisper sacred geometry through time. 3. Disappearance or departure. By the late 13th century, the great centers of Chaco and Mesa Verde were abandoned. What caused this mass exodus? Drought? Famine? Conflict? All are possible, yet the sites show no sign of battle. No burning, no mass graves, just a migration, away from the stone cities into scattered settlements farther south and east. Modern Pueblo tribes, the Hopi, Zuni, and others, say their ancestors didn't disappear. They moved on. The journey was part of prophecy, a spiritual transition, Perhaps the ancestral Puebloans weren't lost. Perhaps they simply evolved, carrying their wisdom into new generations. 4. Living legacy. Unlike many lost civilizations, the ancestral Puebloans live on in story, in tradition, in blood. The Hopi still perform the snake dance. The Zuni still tell the tale of the Kachinas, spirit beings who once walked among them. They speak of Sipapu, the place of emergence, the world beneath this world. In every kiva, a small hole in the floor represents the place where the people emerged into this world. It's a spiritual origin, not just myth, but memory. Tonight, as the stars rise over the desert, know that the past is never truly gone. It waits in stone, in ritual, in silence. 5. Dreaming through stone. You stand atop a mesa, wind whispering through sagebrush. Below you, the ruins stretch across the canyon like shadows frozen in time. The stones are warm from the sun, the air dry and silent. You enter a kiva. The air cools. Your breath slows. You sit at the center, eyes closed. You feel the heartbeat of the earth through stone. You are no longer alone. Voices echo softly. Chants, laughter, the patter of footsteps. The past lives here not as ghosts, but as breath. You are part of the story now. Number 7. The Mosh, lords of the desert and masters of blood. As you settle deeper into the stillness of the night, allow your thoughts to drift across time and space, to a narrow strip of coastal desert in northern Peru, where an enigmatic civilization once flourished between bone-dry dunes and thunderous waves. They are not as well known as the Inca, but they were here long before. Masters of art and architecture, of myth and metalwork, and of rituals that still raise uneasy questions. Tonight, we enter the world of the Mosh, a people whose legacy is etched in gold, clay, and blood. Let the winds of the Andean desert carry us now into the temples of silence and the painted walls of forgotten gods. 1. Birth of a desert empire. The Mosh civilization thrived between 100 CE and 800 CE along the arid valleys of Peru's northern coast. At first glance, this seems an unlikely place for a great culture to arise. A strip of desert squeezed between the towering Andes and the relentless Pacific Ocean. But the Mosh turned adversity into triumph. They mastered irrigation, channeling snowmelt from the mountains to transform desert into farmland. They constructed networks of canals that brought life to the parched soil. From this narrow, fertile strip grew mighty cities: Huaca del Sol, Huaca de la Luna, the Temple of the Sun, and the Temple of the Moon. These pyramidal temples, made of millions of adobe bricks, rose above the valleys like sandcastles of the gods. But they were not just buildings. They were sacred stages upon which the Mosh performed their rituals, worshipped their deities, and offered sacrifices. The Mosh were never a unified empire, but rather a network of powerful city-states linked by shared culture, religion, and astonishing art. And in their art, their true story lives on. 2. Speaking through clay. Unlike many ancient civilizations, the Mosh left no written language. No scrolls, no scripts, no stone tablets. But they did leave something else. Thousands of ceramic vessels, painted with exquisite precision. These pottery pieces, now known as Mosh portrait vessels, are considered among the finest in the ancient world. Realistic faces, expressive eyes, warriors in motion, scenes of ceremonies, dances, battles, and myths, all immortalized in clay. Through these artifacts, the Mosh speak to us, and what they say is both mesmerizing and unsettling. Some vessels depict rulers and priests. Others show warriors capturing prisoners, the shedding of blood, or ritual processions with masked dancers. Perhaps the most haunting of all are the so-called sacrifice scenes. Again and again, these images appear: warriors presenting decapitated heads, priests drinking blood from goblets. Were these metaphors or real events? As we'll see, archaeology suggests the latter. 3. Lords of gold and blood. The Moche were master metalworkers. Long before the Incas, they smelted gold, silver, and copper with breathtaking skill. They created nose ornaments, headdresses, necklaces, and funeral masks so intricate they rival the finest craftsmanship in the ancient world. One of the most significant discoveries came in 1987, when archaeologists uncovered the tomb of the Señor de Sipin, the Lord of Sipin. This royal tomb, untouched by looters, revealed an elite Moche leader buried in splendor. Adorned with gold jewelry, elaborate ceramics, and surrounded by guards, concubines, and even a dog. Like the tomb of Tutankhamun in Egypt, Sipin's burial opened a window into a world long lost. Here was proof of Moche wealth and hierarchy, and of a culture that believed deeply in the power of ritual, death, and the divine. 4. The rituals of the gods. The Moche believed in a pantheon of gods tied to the forces of nature: the sea, the mountains, the sky. Chief among them was Ai Apiek, the Decapitator, a fearsome deity who appears again and again in Moche iconography, often holding a severed head. Ritual sacrifice was central to Moche religious life. High on the platforms of Huaca de la Luna, priests likely enacted ceremonies that involved bloodletting, decapitation, and offerings to the gods. The purpose? To maintain balance between worlds, to ensure rain, fertility, and cosmic harmony. Recent excavations have uncovered ceremonial courtyards stained with blood and burial pits filled with the bodies of young men, likely war captives. Their bones tell a story of execution, not battle. Their deaths were not random. They were part of a sacred theater. It is believed these rituals coincided with environmental crises: droughts, floods, El Niño events. In times of chaos, the gods demanded life in return for balance. 5. Daily life in the Valley of Shadows. But the Moche were not only about death and blood. They were skilled farmers, artisans, builders, and traders. They grew maize, peanuts, beans, and cotton. They fished from the ocean and built storage facilities for grain. Their homes were made of adobe. Their families were tight-knit. Moche society was hierarchical. At the top, elite rulers and priests. Below them, warriors, artisans, farmers, and laborers. There were clearly defined roles for men and women, though powerful female figures have been discovered in burials, suggesting that Moche women could hold religious or political power. One such figure is the Lady of Chao, whose tattooed body was unearthed in 2006 near the Chicama River. Buried with weapons and ceremonial objects, she challenges our assumptions about gender and leadership in ancient Peru. 6. The collapse in the sand. Around 600 to 800 CE, the Moche began to decline. But why? Some scholars point to environmental catastrophe. Geological evidence shows severe El Niño cycles brought devastating floods followed by drought. Crops failed. Canals collapsed. The social order strained under pressure. Others believe the centralized religious system, based on sacrifice and divine favor, may have lost legitimacy as the rituals failed to stop the chaos. Civil unrest followed. The once powerful elite lost control. What's clear is that the Moche world dissolved gradually. Their cities crumbled, their temples faded, and the desert winds buried them in silence. 7. Whispers beneath the earth. Today, the Moche speak not through words, but through fragments. A necklace of turquoise, a shard of pottery, a golden face gazing up from the soil. Every excavation uncovers more questions than answers. Were their sacrifices acts of cruelty or desperate devotion? Were their deities real to them or symbolic of natural forces? Did they fear their gods or revere them? No one knows for certain, but we do know this. The Moche lived in a harsh, beautiful world. They carved meaning from dust. They sang songs in silence. And in their temples of blood and gold, they touched something eternal. 8. A final vision. Close your eyes. Imagine the moon rising above the Huaca de la Luna. The stars shimmer faintly. Below, Masked priests in jaguar skins chant beside a fire. The ocean's roar echoes across the dunes. In this dream, you walk through the temple. Clay murals watch you with ancient eyes. Somewhere, a golden mask glints in the starlight. You hear no screams, no cries, only the steady breath of time. The Mosh are gone, but their silence speaks. Number 8, the Olmec, Whisperers of the Stone Colossus. 1. A jungle wrapped in mist. As the jungle breathes in the warmth of the setting sun, its dense canopy shimmers under the golden haze of twilight. Far beneath the broad leaves and tangled roots, stone giants sleep, their lips sealed, their eyes solemn, their secrets buried for millennia. You may have never heard their names. No great empire in textbooks, no monumental battlefields, and yet, their fingerprints are carved deep into the heart of Mesoamerican history. Theirs was a world of sacred geometry, mysterious symbols, and colossal faces that stare through time. Tonight, we journey into the forgotten world of the Olmec, the mother culture of Central America. Let the soft sounds of distant rain guide your thoughts as we drift into a land where mystery, stone, and spirit intertwine. 2. Who were the Olmec? The Olmec civilization emerged around 1500 BCE, thriving along the Gulf Coast of what is now modern-day Mexico, particularly in the lush, humid regions of Veracruz and Tabasco. Their cities rose not in deserts or high plateaus, but in steaming lowland jungles, places humming with life and shadow. Archaeologists still debate what the Olmec called themselves. Olmec is a Nahuatl term, given by the much later Aztecs, meaning rubber people, due to the region's abundance of rubber trees. What the Olmec called themselves remains a mystery, but this much is known. They were builders, artists, priests, astronomers, and visionaries. Long before the Maya, Aztec, or Teotihuacan, the Olmec carved the path that others would follow. Their legacy is not of empire, but of influence, deep, powerful, and lasting. 3. The colossal heads. Imagine walking alone through a clearing, the sun dappled through the canopy, and suddenly, emerging from the earth a head. Not just any head, a colossal stone face, nearly 10 feet tall and weighing over 20 tons. Thick lips, broad nose, deep-set eyes, a helmet-like headdress. This is what archaeologists discovered in the mid-19th century, and later throughout the 20th, 17 known colossal heads, scattered across sites like San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Tres Zapotes, each unique, each carved from a single massive boulder of basalt, some transported from mountains over 50 miles away, using no wheel, no beast of burden. Who do they depict? Are they rulers, deities, or warriors? Their expressions are stern, their features powerful. Some believe they represent individual kings. Others see them as ceremonial masks of the gods. What's certain is their presence. Still, solemn, commanding, watching over jungles that have long since moved on. 4. The heart of the Olmec world, San Lorenzo and La Venta. San Lorenzo, one of the oldest known Olmec centers, flourished around 1200 BCE. It was a city raised on a massive earthen plateau, sculpted by human hands to lift temples and plazas above the swampy landscape. Here, early forms of aqueducts were found, cut from stone and used to channel clean water, centuries before Roman engineering. Later, the focus shifted to La Venta, around 900 BCE. This city was a ceremonial center, with pyramidal mounds, burial offerings, and massive altars. Beneath the surface, archaeologists found mosaic floors of green serpentine blocks, arranged in symbolic patterns, then buried forever. Why such effort for art no one would see? Perhaps it was meant for the gods below, a gift to the underworld, a prayer carved into silence. 5. The religion of shadow and jaguar. The Olmec believed in a cosmos divided between the heavens, the earthly plane, and the underworld. Shaman priests, it is thought, were mediators between these realms. Their rituals likely involve trance, dance, and the use of hallucinogenic plants to journey beyond. One of their most iconic symbols is the jaguar, a strange fusion of man and beast, appearing on carvings, sculptures, and jade amulets. With slanted eyes, snarling lips, and feline features, the jaguar seems to represent transformation, a merging of human and divine. Some scholars believe the jaguar symbolized power, fertility, and the forces of nature, especially storms and rivers. Others suggest it reflected shamanic metamorphosis, when the priest became one with the jungle's most feared predator. The Olmec world was full of thresholds, between man and God, animal and human, life and death. And in this twilight space, their religion flourished. 6. Masters of art and symbol. Even without a surviving written language, the Olmec left behind an aesthetic legacy that would shape centuries of Mesoamerican art. They worked with jade, obsidian, and ceramic. They carved baby-faced figurines with almond eyes and enigmatic smiles. They sculpted altars with figures emerging from cave-like thrones, perhaps birthing gods or ancestral spirits. Their symbolism is rich, but its meanings remain elusive. Among the most intriguing are the so-called Olmec glyphs, symbols found on stone monuments like the Tuxtla statuette and La Majara stela, which may represent a form of early writing. Though undeciphered, these inscriptions hint at a literacy that predates the Maya script. What stories did they tell? What histories did they record? The stones remain silent, waiting for someone to crack their ancient code. 7. The calendar and the sky. The Olmec were likely the originators of the Mesoamerican long count calendar, later refined by the Maya. They tracked celestial bodies. They aligned their temples to the movements of the sun and stars. Time for them was sacred, a cycle of creation, destruction, and renewal. Some scholars believe the Great Pyramid at La Venta, a massive earthen mound over 110 feet tall, was aligned with astronomical events. Beneath it, elaborate burials and offerings suggest that it may have functioned as both temple and tomb. To the Olmec, the sky was not empty. It was a realm of gods, ancestors, and sacred rhythms. The stars guided more than harvests. They structured myth, memory, and meaning. 8. Decline and disappearance. By 400 BCE, the major Olmec centers had fallen silent. Their great cities were abandoned, their colossal heads left alone in fields, vines creeping slowly up their sides. What happened? No single answer has emerged. Climate change may have brought floods or droughts. Volcanic activity may have driven people away. Shifting trade routes or internal upheaval could have fractured the fragile balance. But while the Olmec civilization faded, their influence did not. The Maya adopted many of their gods and artistic motifs. The Aztecs considered them cultural ancestors. In stone and spirit, the Olmec lived on. 9. Whispers in the stone. Close your eyes now. Imagine standing before one of the colossal heads. The jungle is quiet. Cicadas hum gently in the distance. A light rain begins to fall, misting the basalt surface of the ancient face. You feel its presence. Not lifeless stone, but memory. A dream solidified. A voice in a language you don't understand, but somehow you feel it speak. What did the Olmec know that we've forgotten? What visions danced in their ceremonies? What truths were carved into jade and buried with reverence? We may never fully know, but their legacy is a living one, echoed in pyramids, in masks, in myths that refuse to die. Into the dream, as the night deepens, let the stone faces fade into the mist. Let the sounds of the jungle soften into silence. Let your mind drift, not into sleep, but into memory, the memory of a world long gone, yet strangely familiar. The Olmec left no books, no sprawling ruins of empire, only their silence, their geometry, They're whispers in stone. And perhaps in dreams that is enough. Number 9. Nabta Playa, stargazers of the ancient Sahara. In the desolate heart of the Nubian desert, hidden beneath millennia of shifting sands, lies a place so ancient and enigmatic that it challenges everything we think we know about the origins of civilization. Long before the pharaohs built their pyramids or the Sumerians etched their laws into stone, a forgotten people were gazing into the heavens, charting the stars, and erecting megaliths aligned with celestial precision. Tonight, we journey to one of the world's oldest and most mysterious archaeological sites, Nabta Playa. Situated in what is now southern Egypt, this seemingly barren landscape was once the center of a thriving Neolithic society. These people were more than nomads. They were sky watchers, astronomers, and ceremonial architects whose legacy was buried in silence until just a few decades ago. Let the desert wind brush away the centuries. Let the night sky above you become the same sky they once studied. As you drift into sleep, allow your mind to wander back 7,000 years, to a time when the stars ruled the desert. 1. Rediscovering the hidden past. The story of Nabta Playa begins not in ancient times, but in the modern era in the 1970s, when archaeologists first stumbled upon strange stone arrangements in the southern Egyptian desert, roughly 100 kilometers west of Abu Simbel. What they found shocked them. A collection of megalithic structures, stone circles, and alignments that hinted at an early and sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Initially dismissed as random, further studies by Fred Wendorf and his team in the 1990s revealed a prehistoric calendar system, a Stonehenge-like formation that may predate its more famous cousin by over 1,000 years. Radiocarbon dating suggested some activity in the area as early as 7,500 BCE. But who were these people? They left no written records, no cities, no temples carved in stone. And yet, they possessed knowledge of the cosmos, of solstices, equinoxes, and perhaps even the cyclical behavior of stars. Their monuments, buried in sand for millennia, now whisper of a deep, ancient intelligence. 2. Life in a lost lakebed. To understand the people of Nabta Playa, we must first understand the land they inhabited. Today, the region is bone-dry and inhospitable, part of the Sahara's endless sea of sand. But thousands of years ago, during the Holocene wet phase, it was very different. Seasonal monsoons created a massive playa, a shallow lake, that would fill during the summer and evaporate in the dry months. Around its edges, early pastoral communities settled. They herded cattle, cultivated wild grains, and fashioned pottery. Archaeological findings include grinding stones, storage pits, hearths, and even cattle burials, the earliest known in the Nile Valley. The reverence for cattle, in particular, is striking. Some scholars believe that this ritual treatment of animals predates and possibly influenced the sacred status of cattle in ancient Egyptian religion. Could it be that the religious foundations of Egypt began not in the Nile, but in the desert to the west? These people were not just surviving, they were thriving. They organized seasonal camps, managed resources, and came together for ceremonial gatherings. And during these gatherings, they built monuments. 3. The megalithic calendar of the desert. The centerpiece of Nabta Playa is its stone circle, a series of upright slabs arranged in a circular formation, surrounded by radiating lines of smaller stones. At first glance, it may seem simple, but detailed analysis revealed its astonishing purpose. It marked the summer solstice. This alignment, where the rising sun would pass directly between two of the standing stones, would have announced the onset of the rainy season. For a people dependent on seasonal lakes and grazing lands, this knowledge was vital. Other stone arrangements point to the rising positions of important stars, including Sirius, the star whose heliacal rising would later define the Egyptian New Year. This suggests an ongoing observation of the heavens, perhaps over generations, and a cultural continuity that would echo through time into the dynasties of pharaohs. What's more, The complexity of these alignments implies planning, cooperation, and a shared cosmology. These weren't mere markers. They were sacred instruments for measuring time and invoking divine order. 4. The sacred and the symbolic. Beyond the calendar circle lie other enigmatic features. Tumuli, stone-covered burial mounds, stone-lined corridors, and upright slabs whose meanings remain debated. Some may have served as ceremonial centers. Others might have marked burial sites, not for humans but for cattle. This gives rise to an intriguing possibility. Nabta Playa may have been a pilgrimage site, a sacred place where scattered communities gathered seasonally to perform rituals, honor celestial cycles, and renew their social bonds. Cattle were not only a source of food and wealth, but spiritual totems. Burials of entire bulls, sometimes in elaborately constructed chambers, suggest veneration bordering on worship. Some researchers even compare this to later Egyptian cults, such as the Apis bull in Memphis. There is also evidence of symbolic architecture, stone lines and shapes whose meanings we may never fully grasp. Were they paths, altars, celestial maps? Without written records, we are left with speculation. But the presence of such deliberate structures suggests a worldview where the earth mirrored the sky and ritual mirrored the cosmos. 5. The legacy of the Sky Watchers. By 5000 BCE, the climate began to change. The monsoons retreated. The lakes dried up. The communities of Nabta Playa were forced to migrate, likely toward the Nile Valley, bringing with them their knowledge, their rituals, and perhaps the seeds of Egyptian civilization. Some Egyptologists argue that the cosmological and religious systems that later defined dynastic Egypt, solar alignments, cattle cults, and astronomical symbolism, were rooted in these early desert cultures. Nabta Playa, in this view, was not a footnote but a prelude. Consider this. The god Osiris was associated with the constellation Orion. The Great Pyramids are aligned to Orion's belt. At Nabta Playa, similar star patterns were carved into the land long before Khufu was born. Is it possible that the builders of the pyramids inherited a skylore thousands of years old? We cannot be sure, but the alignments are compelling, and they point to a hidden lineage of sacred knowledge passed down through the ages, from nomads of the Sahara to lords of the Nile. 6. Questions in the sand. The mystery of Nabta Playa lies in its contradictions. How could such a sophisticated culture arise in what seems like the middle of nowhere? Why build a calendar in a place with no permanent water? Why honor cattle with such reverence? Perhaps the answer lies in the very nature of the desert, a place where survival depends on knowledge, where the stars guide you, and where every drop of rain is a gift from the gods. In such an environment, time itself becomes sacred, and those who could read the sky became keepers of life. Archaeologists continue to study the site, but many questions remain unanswered. Was Nabta Playa a lone outpost or part of a wider network? Were its rituals purely local, or did they inspire a broader spiritual revolution? Did its people leave descendants, or did they vanish like the rain they once awaited? 7. Dreaming under ancient stars. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine the desert not as a void, but as a cathedral. The sky is its ceiling. The stars are its stained glass. Around you, shadowy figures gather in the glow of a fire. They speak in ancient tongues. They raise their eyes to the heavens. You walk among their stones. You touch a slab that once marked the rising of Sirius. You hear the low hum of a drum, the chant of an elder calling rain. The wind brushes your skin, warm, dry, eternal. The people of Nabta Playa are long gone. Their bones turn to dust, but their vision remains. A vision carved in stone and starlight. A vision of time, of harmony, of reverence for the rhythm of the universe. Sleep now, fellow traveler. Let the stars of Nabta Playa guide your dreams. Number 10. The Kingdom of Aksum. Echoes of the Forgotten Empire. In the highlands of modern-day Ethiopia and Eritrea, where rugged mountains pierce the sky and the Red Sea whispers stories from long ago, there once stood a mighty empire, one so powerful, so rich in culture and achievement, that ancient Roman and Persian scribes wrote of it with reverence. And yet today, few speak its name. Few remember the kingdom of Aksum. Tonight, we close our eyes and open the final chapter in our journey into a realm of towering obelisks, lost Christian traditions, and kings who ruled the crossroads of Africa and Arabia. As you drift towards sleep, allow yourself to be guided through time into the heart of Africa's greatest forgotten empire. Let the scent of incense and the soft rustle of silk accompany you. Listen to the murmur of priests chanting in Guizi. The stars shine down, unchanged, over ancient stone pillars, mute witnesses to a civilization lost in time. 1. The birth of an empire. The story of Aksum begins around the 1st century CE, though its roots stretch deeper into antiquity, into the earlier DMT kingdom and beyond. Nestled in the Horn of Africa, the kingdom of Aksum emerged as a powerful trading empire that bridged Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Its capital, also named Aksum, flourished with life. Bustling markets, massive temples, and intricately carved palaces. Merchants from India, Arabia, Egypt, and Rome traded gold, ivory, frankincense, and exotic spices in its markets. Its strategic position near the Red Sea transformed Aksum into a vital node in international trade, connecting the Nile to the Indian Ocean. Greek and Roman travelers spoke of Aksum with awe. A 4th century Roman document even listed it among the great powers of the world alongside Rome, Persia, and China. And yet, unlike these civilizations, Aksum's history would be buried in silence for centuries. 2. The obelisks and sacred stones. Towering above the city of Aksum even today are stone giants. Monolithic obelisks carved from single pieces of granite, some weighing over 500 tons. These stelae were funerary monuments, believed to mark the tombs of kings and nobles. Their design is unlike anything else in the world. The stelae are not just massive markers. They're carved to resemble multi-story buildings, complete with false doors and windows. The largest known stele, now fallen, would have stood over 33 meters high. How these enormous stones were quarried, transported, and erected remains one of Aksum's enduring mysteries.
No puyes, no crans.
Just human ingenuity and perhaps lost knowledge. To walk among these stelae is to walk through silence. The air is still, the stones cold, yet each monolith pulses with the memory of a forgotten king, a lost dynasty, a buried culture that once ruled with divine authority. 3. The conversion of a kingdom. Around 330 CE, under the reign of King Ezana, something extraordinary happened. Aksum became one of the first major empires to adopt Christianity, not centuries later, but at nearly the same time as the Roman Empire. Ezana's inscriptions, carved in Guizi, Greek, and Sabaean, tell us of his conversion and his campaigns to spread the new faith across his realm. He smashed pagan idols, built churches, and minted coins with Christian symbols. The Aksumite Church, influenced by the Coptic tradition of Egypt, evolved its own rich theology, architecture, and liturgy. To this day, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church traces its roots to this moment. And some say, in hushed voices and hopeful tones, that Aksum still guards the greatest relic of all, the Ark of the Covenant. Legend says it rests within the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Aksum, protected by monks who never leave the sanctuary. No one is allowed to see it. No proof has ever emerged. And yet, the story persists. For a world of writing and coinage, Aksum was no silent power. It spoke through stone and silver. Its kings inscribed their deeds in Guizi, one of the world's oldest written languages still in liturgical use. Stone inscriptions, royal proclamations, and religious texts reveal a people proud of their heritage. Even more impressively, Aksum was one of the few African civilizations to mint its own currency. Gold, silver, and bronze coins bore the faces of kings and symbols of power, from crescent moons to crosses. These coins circulated as far as India and Byzantium. They speak of a literate, organized, and economically vibrant state, not a tribal backwater, but a sovereign power with a seat at the table of empires. 5. The Red Sea Empire. Aksum's reach extended beyond the African continent. At its height, it controlled parts of modern-day Yemen across the Red Sea. Its fleets sailed the waters between Africa and Arabia, ferrying goods, ideas, and faith. In the 6th century, King Caleb of Aksum launched a military campaign into Himyar, in present-day Yemen, intervening in defense of Christians persecuted by a Jewish king. This wasn't a skirmish, it was a full-scale invasion, supported by the Byzantine Empire. For a time, Aksum ruled both sides of the Red Sea. Its influence spanned deserts and oceans. Its kings were known to distant empires. And yet, this golden age would not last forever. 6. The Slow Eclipse. By the 7th century, the rise of Islam began to shift trade routes and political alliances across the Red Sea. The new Islamic caliphates rose swiftly, capturing ports and redirecting commerce. Aksum, once dominant in maritime trade, found itself sidelined. Environmental changes, too, played a role. Deforestation, overgrazing, and soil degradation may have reduced agricultural productivity. Combined with external pressures, the kingdom began to contract, withdrawing from the coast, retreating inland. But Aksum did not fall in flames. It faded, slowly, gracefully, and mysteriously. Its stones remained, its faith endured, and its memory slipped into shadow. 7. Whispers in the Highlands. Today, the city of Aksum is quiet. Pilgrims still gather, the stelae still stand, and the church that guards the Ark still casts its long sacred shadow. Archaeologists continue to explore the region, unearthing royal tombs, ancient manuscripts, and forgotten churches carved into mountain stone. But many questions remain unanswered. Why did Aksum not expand farther south? Why was so much of its knowledge lost? And what truly became of its last kings? Aksum's story is not just one of power, but of spirit. It's a reminder that civilizations can thrive outside the Western narrative. That Africa, too, was home to empires of wisdom, faith, and wonder.
8. Dreams of the Ark and the Stars. As you drift towards sleep, imagine a world of incense and candlelight, of chanting monks and jeweled crowns, of stelae pointing to the stars, and kings who gazed up in prayer. The kingdom of Aksum is gone, but its heartbeat lingers, in every stone carved with Guizi, in every hymn sung in ancient tones, in every dream of the Ark behind sacred walls. Tonight, you've walked among its ruins. You've listened to its whispers, and as the final echoes of this journey fade, may your dreams carry you through the lands of the lost and the wonders they still hold. Sleep now, traveler. The empires are silent, but their secrets endure.